And we're live. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms, YouTube and Facebook. Although no one really watches Facebook anymore. They've completely destroyed themselves with the clickbait and the nonsense so that not even grandma wants to be there. I'm not sure how much longer we'll bother using video on Facebook, but if you are there, say hello. It is the weekly Penguins live chat. Here's how this works. You talk, I talk, I talk, you talk. We communicate back and forth. I've got a handful of things we're going to get to on this here little, can't call it a broadcast, but a tube cast, a stream cast, or whatnot. We're going to talk about what constitutes the Penguins' perfect offseason. Some of my readers really wanted to get, granular and, well, trade this player for that player. And we're not playing GM just yet, but we have to set some goals for Kyle Dubas, some very specific goals on what he needs to accomplish in the next few months, lest the Penguins get caught in that sideways adrift sort of rebuild. We're going to talk about Mikael Granlund. Oh, I saw the revisionist history starting last night, and I knew it was coming. We'll talk about Granlund. There is one big detail I didn't realize that nobody else knew. I shouldn't say nobody else, but I don't think fans knew or know the mitigating circumstance in addition to, Granlund's style of play that really hindered his time in Pittsburgh. And just for fun, we will talk about leaving, not on a jet plane, not Sidney Crosby to Montreal. I apologize to all of my Habs fans. That would be crazy, right? But we are going to talk about the construct and the benefits of Penguins veterans leaving, not just for the team that would presumably recoup a fair amount of assets, but in reality for the players. So we're going to get into all of that. I moved it up to noon today only because when I do it at 1 o'clock, it kind of kills my entire afternoon because I don't wrap it up till like 2:30. And then, I can't write anything at, 4 o'clock or so. So we're going to try 12 o'clock and see how the numbers are and see how you react and if you like the earlier time or if I go back to 1 o'clock. So published this on Pittsburgh Hockey Now just a little while ago. And so I'm going to start with this. There's the three thoughts, including Mikael Granlund. Now, there's no question, zero question, even before his plane took off from Nashville, before he landed in Pittsburgh, the Penguins fans were not happy about the trade. The general feeling or reporting of the time was that once Hextall closed the door on JT Miller, just said no to the Canucks' final offer, Chris Pryor, the former assistant general manager, said, hey, I really like Granlund. Get Granlund. And so the Penguins did. Fast forward to, 2 months later, 6 weeks later, the Penguins collapse, miss the playoffs in 2023 when they really should have made it. I mean, they had what they had to do, beat Chicago, the worst team in the league, and they're in, and they fumbled it. So there was a lot of hate for Granlund. And look, he had 1 goal, 4 assists in 21 games. It didn't work in Pittsburgh. Now, what I put in the story, and I would like you all to click over and read the entire thing. In fact, I'm going to post it right here. I just posted the story on the comments section. The mitigating factor that really no one knew was that he was going through a pretty rough divorce. His wife, they separated. They don't list the date because I found all the details. I knew it existed. I knew the situation existed, but I found all the details in a Finnish magazine, kind of like one of those People magazines in Finland. And they were really kind of, glowering over his wife and really, praising her. She had a brand new husband like months after they separated, but they separated kind of right around the time that Nashville traded him to the Penguins. And they'd been having, significant problems and so on and so forth. And their divorce was final by July. She was well remarried within months after the divorce and so on and so forth. But I can probably feel some guys nodding along. If you wondered why Mikael Granlund's game went to hell in Pittsburgh, he was going through some stuff. She basically took the kids 5 and 3 and went home to Finland while he finished out the season wherever it may have ended. What a difficult situation, and obviously you can't talk about that publicly. When I ask, hey, how did you feel in your first game? He can't say, well, it was a tough because I'm getting divorced. You just, but he certainly rebounded well with the San Jose Sharks in the following year. The Sharks were able to give him a lot more opportunity as well. The Sharks had no talent last year. And so they were able to put him on, like number one center duty, power play, that sort of thing, which certainly boosted his offensive totals. But even with Dallas, third line kind of guy, 21 points in 31 games. Big contributor, big hat trick last night. Did you see him actually taunt Winnipeg last night? He was waving as they went off the ice. I was, damn, Granlund. So, the personal stuff, the on-ice stuff, Granlund is kind of a creative, slower player, the exact opposite of what the Penguins needed or want, or what Mike Sullivan would have wanted, especially back in 23. The GM really should have known that. Ron Hextall should have diagnosed both problems at that point and said, maybe now's not the best time. And either gone a whole different direction or just sat on his hands. Because he took on a lot of money to make that trade. So anyway, that's the Mikael Granlund story. The legend of, Mikael Granlund and all of his 21 games as a Penguin, but still kind of a significant entity because it was such a terrible trade. He flops. The Penguins are stuck with him. He's part of the Erik Karlsson trade, which is bubbling around flop. It's not quite a flop, but it certainly can't call it a successful trade. I mean, Granlund is right there. I mean, in fact, that trade may have gotten Ron Hextall fired. Think about all of that. It's kind of crazy. I digress. So let's get into perfect offseason and your comments as well. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this around. Let me fix thine hair, singular. Yep, okay. Do we go perfect offseason, or do we want to talk about some of the other? Rick Tocchet's about to be named the head coach of the Philly Flyers, it looks like. It's not official. All of the smoke is coming from there. A couple tweets right before I jumped on here said that it will be made official very shortly. Let's go to Michael Thompson. First comment of the day. Seeing TK stand up for Crosby the other day was so weird to see. Who is TK? Who are you talking about, Michael? I don't know what you're talking about. Or you're talking about PK Subban on the broadcast. Okay. Michael double dips here. You took a chip, you dipped it, you took another bite. The worst trade was the Matheson for Petrie trade. God awful. In retrospect, absolutely. At the moment, it was kind of a lateral plus move, wherein Petrie was a little better, running a power play and, supposed to be steadier and that sort of thing. It wasn't supposed to be such a terrible trade, but yeah, that one blew up on Hextall too. Oh, Travis Konechny standing up for Crosby at the Worlds. I think, do I have to explain the business of hockey to y'all? That, once you put on the same sweater, it's war and you go to war together. I mean, Max Talbot went to the Flyers, Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers, and so on and so forth. It happens. Oh, by the way, I am now a member of the Little Lebowski Urban Achievers program. It's a wonderful program that there we go. It's a wonderful program that really helps the local youth. The Little Lebowski Urban Achievers. Okay, let's see here. Robert says Crosby is going to the Habs. Mark my words. Wait, Robert, weren't you the guy last week pushing the Crosby to the Avalanche trade stuff? It is not happening. Not now. Not anytime soon. You have to be kind of insane to ignore Sidney Crosby's 6 dozen times he's answered the question. And the eye rolls are what give it away. Sid always, even terrible questions, unless I tick him off. Even terrible questions, he'll try to hang in the box and, foul it off or give you something in return. But even this year, even he kind of gave the eye roll when asked about it. So Sonny says, Granlund's bloated salary cost us Pettersson. His ill play cost us Sullivan. His lack of defense got Jari demoted twice. Oh, you're talking about Erik Karlsson. Karlsson is killing this team from the inside out. Wait, there it is. Well, he affects everyone around him. Woo! Bringing some spice, are you? Let's go to Brandon. How much validity is in the Marco Rossi rumors? Well, Brandon, since those rumors started based on a column that I wrote, and I didn't report that the Penguins were chasing him. I reported, one, that, Michael Russo of The Athletic, who covers that team very well, said it was, a good probability that he eventually gets traded either now or in, the near or future. And then I put it on the operating table and decided that it fit the Penguins and that they should. That's the Marco Rossi rumor. And that's why damn it, this clickbait on the internet is just infuriating, because you guys, I feel bad in a sense that it gets tougher and tougher to distinguish legitimacy from nonsense. Real outlets covering the team and doing a professional job, and we might speculate or have an idea from time to time, versus the garbage. I mean, look, there's one, I wish I could say what I really think of this guy. He's up in Quebec. They bought up a bunch of the Facebook fan groups on Facebook and changed them over to basically only promoting these web pages that he owns. And he has like 2 or 3 Penguins pages, 2 or 3 for every team. And he just has people cranking out like my content or Yoey's content through AI so that it rewrites it enough that can't sue for plagiarism. And they just twist everything in the headline, and it's absolute, and quite frankly, Facebook should be ashamed of itself for allowing this crap to go on, but they don't care. They don't want you to click on my stuff on Facebook because then you leave Facebook and come to Pittsburgh Hockey Now. So they prioritize this junk, this clickbait rumor garbage that is nothing more than made up or twisted from something that a real person, namely me in this case, wrote. I hope I've answered that. I hope. But I'm also going to put a little bit on all of your doorsteps as well, where you have to be a little smarter than the average bear, or be smarter than the clickbait. You can't just roll through headline. You have to be selective, even which headlines that you see. You can't go swimming in the swamp and not expect some leeches. Can't roll with dogs and not expect some fleas. So block all of that garbage out. And I'd say focus on those of us doing a credible job who actually have to go do the real job. All right, that's enough of me soapboxing before I get really angry. Those Facebook people, damn, they are annoying. Big Bill, Dan, are the Pens in a reset period or a full rebuild? If rebuild, what vets can you see them offloading for prospects and draft picks? I suppose, Bill, your first question is a matter of semantics, really. I don't quite know what you mean by a reset, or I assume by rebuild, you mean tear it all down. Everything must go, tear it to the studs. And that's not what's going to happen. A reset also involves trading veterans, but you're at that point, you're trading veterans for more immediate help, not draft picks and not necessarily such future assets. What vets can they offload? Obviously the easy two will be Rickard Rakell and or Brian Rust. I've always thought that one of them stays, but not both. I could be wrong. I'm guessing. I think what Kyle Dubas has done, and wisely so, Big Bill, is he set price tags on some of these players. It's not that he's shopping them, but when somebody comes, with their buggy, with the squeaky wheel, and maybe they don't get their number one target, or maybe they think Rakell is the best budget fit for them, or whatever it is, then, when they meet Dubas's price, then things happen. Obviously, Erik Karlsson could certainly go. I don't believe he has much trade value. I do believe he has value to other teams, but almost zero trade value. Do you understand what I mean by, how I differentiate that? The Penguins will get nothing in return. Almost nothing. We're talking a pittance for Karlsson, and they'll probably have to eat some money as well. He really has. He's hurt his value with the way he's played, especially over the last 3-4 months of the Penguins season. He really steered into the skid, unfortunately, and kind of confirmed some of the negative criticisms of him. So Karlsson, Rakell, obviously the other ones would be easy. Noel Acciari, Kevin Hayes. I don't know if Hayes has any value either, but he only has 1 year left. If the Penguins maybe take back a player the other team wants to offload, there's certainly some opportunity there to move Kevin Hayes as well. I don't think Chris Letang is on that list. Had he not had heart surgery, that would be a much more interesting question. Let's go back to Michael. What do I think Rust and Rakell's trade values look like? I've said this for quite a while. Rickard Rakell is a 3-asset player. Not necessarily because he's a superstar, but let me move this back a little bit. But because his salary is so affordable, look, the cap is skyrocketing, and this guy makes $5 million. You can get 30 goals for for $5 million. That's a slam dunk in my book. You know what? Let me grab my coffee. How many hosts have the guts to just leave a live chat like that? I think you get a good prospect, an NHL player, and a good draft pick for Rickard Rakell. That's what I would hold to. Now, any one of those three assets could be deleted if one of the other two assets increased in value. You get what I'm saying? If you give a good first round pick, well, then you don't need to give a prospect. Or if you give a good NHL player that, or a soon to be NHL player, maybe that, negates the good NHL player part of that deal. So that's what I think. Brian Rust is quite an interesting trade talk because I think he should cost about the same, but he doesn't have the offensive stats to really back it up. I mean, he got to 30 this year, right? You're getting Brian Rust. Let's just say the Columbus Blue Jackets or the Montreal Canadiens, a team that really wants that sort of grizzled veteran leadership that Brian Rust has become. So you're going to pay a premium for that. But how much that is, I really don't know. I don't know that Dubas would have a very great idea. Because I know some teams called at the deadline, but a team calling and Dubas really entertaining it are two entirely different matters. And since they never went to Brian Rust to ask him about his no trade, then to me it wasn't a story because every team calls about just about every player. I think for Rust, you're probably not going to get a first round pick, but maybe you get a really good prospect and an NHL player in return. Is that enough? Boy, that's no. I think for the reasons that Brian Rust would be attractive are the reasons the Penguins would keep him. Bear in mind, don't forget the trade deadline, Michael, when the Penguins acquired Luke Schenn because of his leadership. Now, he had no interest in coming to, a losing team, but they want him to be part of the rebuild. So in that sense, I gather that that Rust stays. Andrew, thank you so much. I believe Andrew has donated $4.99. Did you just subscribe, Andrew, or did you just kick that in here on YouTube? Very much appreciated. It took the Jackets 4 years to rebuild. Will it be that long for us? Yes. Think about this. The Penguins have already missed the playoffs 3 years running. They are most likely at least another year away from being a playoff contender, if not 2 or 3. So you're going to be looking at a 6-year playoff drought, 5-6 years. If Dubas has a misstep, which probably going to happen, you're solidly at 6, maybe 7 years. So 7 years from now would be 4 more years, huh? I mean, I'm just kind of putting it out there. It's possible. My gut, and this is not reporting, okay? My gut says that part of the reason that it was the Sullivan-Dubas departure or schism or split happened so quickly at the end of the season. I mean, last year they went into May talking back and forth on how to fix things and so on and so forth. We also know that New Jersey really wanted Mike Sullivan and made a play for Mike Sullivan. How that happened, I don't know. like how they did it legally. I don't know the rules, but Pierre LeBrun, and I have no reason to doubt him because I was being told similar things behind the scenes that New Jersey really wanted Sullivan as their coach last year. I think the schism occurred this year is because Sullivan wanted a quicker rebuild. Hey, we can patch some holes here with some youngish guys and really get right back to it. Let's go. And Dubas, I think, is going to want to go around the bend. He's going to want to go around the mountain and really rebuild this thing from the ground up without tearing it down, just kind of adding and adding and adding and adding youth as he has the opportunity. Aaron, once again, you humble me with thy donation, and I really do appreciate you. Or not Andrew. Yeah, I said Andrew, right? Logan, I saw some comments on Twitter about Crosby talking about coaching change. He sounded like he was okay with it. He understands the business, that if things aren't going well, changes will happen. Yeah. Look, I think anybody who expected Sid to throw a temper tantrum or threaten to leave to keep Mike Sullivan doesn't understand Sidney Crosby. If the Penguins were winning and there was some fight going on behind the scenes, then maybe it's a whole different scenario, right? But Sid understands where the organization is. Kyle Dubas has been clear that he's been in communication with Sid throughout his tenure, actually. He didn't say Sid agreed with everything, but he did say that he's been as transparent as he can, and he loops Sid into what's going on and what he's thinking. So, yeah, that seems like it. R. Allen, does Novak move to second line center after Malkin's retirement? I honestly, I don't think so. Listen, guys, I'm not very high on Tommy Novak. I don't know how a center can play a game and have, what was it, 9 hits last season? 9 hits for the entire season. I don't know how a guy could be successful. I don't know how a player can be successful in the middle of the ice and be so contact averse. I think that was a big problem of his in Nashville. I think Barry Trotz won that trade going away. Yeah, he sold Luke Schenn a bit on the cheap, but he got Michael Bunting for Novak. And he gave away the Washington Capitals second round pick, which is deep into round 2, almost a third rounder. So, yeah. No, I don't expect Novak to move up in the Penguins. I mean, look, he can shock me. He's young enough. I don't think he's that 60-point guy that Kyle Dubas seems to think. Let's go to Rich 81. I have seen the Rossi stuff from other outlets after your story. I laughed. Yeah, I kind of broke the seal on that, didn't I? But listen, if Josh Yohe opines that, great. Josh and I will occasionally read each other's stuff and just, compare notes and discuss and argue and have some fun with it. I think that's fine if other people agree, but it's just these clickbait nonsense morons who steal every story, mangle the headline. NHL Insider says Penguins about to acquire Wild Star. You're like, that's not what I wrote. Shut up. AI. Oh, did you see the at the factory in Japan? NES Addict, yes. AI is going to run a lot of things. The machines are awakening. I'm talking full-on James Cameron Genesis sort of project. They had the big robot. What is the name of that? Is it Alpha? That Elon Musk has touted, where these robots essentially going to be our servants and that kind of thing. I forget the name of it. But so there's the factory in Japan, And this, the robot is kind of like hung by the, like back by the shirt collar as, the worker is working on him. And the robot goes nuts. I mean, the robot gets angry, starts flailing at him like to get away. If that doesn't put a little shiver down your spine. Skynet. I cannot envision an effective third line, writes Stephen. If the top two lines are some version of Koivunen, Crosby, Rust, McGroarty, Malkin, Raquel, yeah, that's probably your top six. With that effective checking line of Dewar, Lizotte, Achari or Ponomarev as the fourth line, you're not far off, Stephen. Let me try to figure it out a little bit for you. Tristan Brose very well could be that guy who steps into a third line center role next year. Also, I would have to expect that Dubas understands that he doesn't have a third line. And you can't do that to a team. You can't, look, even if you get one on the cheap, get one. Get a third line center. Or, listen, maybe the new coach says, oh, I like Kevin Hayes. I can work with that. Entirely possible, right? Because then I don't like Hayes, Tomasino, and anybody. I kind of agree with you that Tomasino had his little goal jump when he arrived, but Tomasino doesn't do enough. What did he have? 11 goals in 53 games. Doesn't do enough if he's not scoring in order to help the team win. Let's go to Abba's World. Do I see Dubas going in after any high-end restricted free agents? Absolutely not. 0% chance on that, Abba. Here's why. To sign a high-end RFA, you have to give up draft picks. It's not just money. You have to give up draft picks. So if you sign somebody over $5 million, or it's like, 4.9? My staff missed that story yesterday. Over 4.9, you have to give up a first and a third round pick. You're telling me that in order to sign, let's say, Bo Byram, the Penguins are going to give up their first round pick in 2026, their lottery ticket for Gavin McKenna? Hell no. Stay out of my beach community, deadbeat. What are you talking? Someone know what he's talking about? Now I'm really lost. Let's go back to Stephen completing his thought there on if you're left with Novak. Oh, I do forget about Novak. So I guess that third line would be Novak, Hayes, Tomasino, or Braz and Hal. Oh, yeah, Philip Hollander is in there. So let me sketch this out here. So I don't know if Hollander is a center or a wing. I think he's a left wing. I think so. So you could have Hollander, Brose, and Novak, or maybe Hollander, Novak, and Hayes, or yeah, Stephen. I think you're on. I think you're correct. Actually, I don't know that Danton Heinen will still be a Penguin. I don't even know if Tomasino will be, quite frankly, because they're going to have to pay him. What is the chance of Dubas sending an offer sheet for RFA Matthew Nice? I assume Nice is going to make more than $5 million, so 0. Now, if the Maple Leafs are snookered and the Penguins can get him for under $5 million, heck yes. I do believe that I was told secondhand that Dubas made a play for Nice at the trade deadline. And it would have involved one of the Penguins veterans being sent to Toronto. So Nice is a name to watch. I would suspect that Toronto would trade him to the Penguins rather than doing that offer sheet dance. because I think they might want something better than a second round pick for him. So that's what I see there. Great to see you, Dan. Well, thank you, Kyle. Love the live chats. Are you concerned about Dubas's history of building a viable defense going forward? Seems like history has repeated itself. Kyle, here, let me show you this story. Let me see what day I wrote this. There we go. I wrote this on March 10th. Not that you're wrong. You are exactly right. Here is what I wrote on March 10th. Seems Dubas headed down the road of past mistakes, and that was all about both goaltending and a terrible defense. So, yep, I think that is a huge concern. How bad the Penguins' defense was this season. There's no other way to Dubas has to be part of that blame game because it was entirely his concoction. Other than Chris Letang, every other defenseman on the blue line was his. Now, I like Ryan Shea quite a bit. I think Shea is an NHL third pairing defenseman who can step up occasionally into that top four role, who plays with a bit of an edge. He kind of does upset opponents. He moves the puck well. He can jump into the offensive zone. Erik Karlsson was calling him Bobby Shea for a few weeks, Bobby Orr. They're calling him Bobby Shea. So, yeah. But, Dubas did a great job finding Ryan Shea. Putting the rest of it together, jigsaw puzzle pieces from different puzzles. With the salary for Raquel, should definitely drive up his value. Absolutely. Let me get to Lenk here. No way Rust gets moved. Well, I would say no, don't do it, but you can't say there's no way. Odds that Harrison Brunick makes the team out of camp this go-round. I'm going to put it at 50-50. Really. Because I think the Penguins are smart enough to know sending him back to juniors is just a dead end street for the kid. I mean, he's at risk of picking up more bad habits than he is learning good habits. He's got such a simple, clean, smooth game that I could see them. However, to answer your question, the Penguins' right side is kind of stacked because you are going to have Letang and Karlsson as of now. Presuming you keep Connor Timmins, although they could let him walk, trade him, I don't know. There's also Jack St. Ivany on the right side. I think St. Ivany brings some assets to that blue line that they are sorely lacking. And I think my praise of St. Ivany during my week or so coverage of Wilkes-Barre stood on its own. I gave the kid a 10 of 10, basically. I saw the angry, edgy St. Ivany on the ice that I saw a year ago, which bodes very well for the Penguins. Can we revisit, asks Gable Fisk, can we revisit the question of whether or not Ray Shero deserved to be fired when he did? Well, I wasn't covering the team back then. That was part of my those were part of my national days when I was, kind of functioning out of Toronto covering the entire league. Ray Shero's downfall was Dan Bylsma. And a boss above him who wanted to get his hands in there. Should Ray Shero have been fired? Listen, things were not going well with the Penguins. They had lost playoff series, first rounds, looked terrible. The team was sort of imploding. It was a bad situation. Should Ray Shero have been given a chance to fix it? Yes. But I was always given to understand that there was just a tied at the hip sort of thing. It's both of us between Shiro and Bilesma, and that's what I understand happened. So if you're saying should he been fired, well, yes. You can't tether yourself to an anchor and not go down. Nick McKeel, do other teams look at Raquel and Rust and say their numbers are good, but they play with Sid? Does that decrease the value that other teams perceive? It's an interesting point. I'm sure there's a little bit of that. But if you look at Raquel and Rust when they play with other centers, I mean, when they played with Malkin late in the season, there was no drop off. And that was the impressive part. When you look at Raquel's ability to play center, I mean, he was kind of sketchy defensively, but no one expected him to be a Selke winner for, a handful of games when he filled in, in the middle. I don't think a general man, actually, let me rephrase this. I think most general managers would look at their number one center on a good team who could use Rickard Rakell to take that final step. They're probably going to have a very good number one center, and they're going to look at Rakell as having the ability, and Russ as having the ability to elevate their guy. I don't think people think of either as a creation of Sid, and that was kind of the tag that Connor Sherry had, right? That Sherry, and even for a minute, people wondered if Jake Gensel was a Sidney Crosby creation. Logan, would you do a bad contract for bad contract kind of deal for Jari for a goalie like John Gibson from Anaheim? Gibson is above Tristan Jari on that food chain. If Anaheim wanted to do Gibson for Jari, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I think a change of scenery would help both of those players, but Gibson had a really good year. Look at Gibson's save percentage this year. Was he not like 918, 916? So, those guys both might need a change of scenery, but apples and oranges in terms of, 1-for-1 swap. You're not going to get that one. Give me Tristan Brose as a 2C. Brose might get there. I haven't closed the door on that, by the way. I don't know is my best answer on that. I'm just being honest. I've watched him with that intent. Is he a second line center at the NHL level? And I don't know. I mean, he's got wheels. He's got really slick hands. From that standpoint, I can see why coaches have long thought he would be a very successful winger. But for whatever reason, when he got put in the middle by David Carl at Denver, and then, he stayed in the middle at Wilkes-Barre, his game is just much better that way. So next year, I think you set the bar lower next year. You want him to come in, compete, and win that third line center job. I think that's what the Penguins' goal for him would be. Let's go back to Kyle. You're from Pittsburgh, but live in Nashville. Oh, you poor guy. Been a Pred season ticket holder now. Novak is so hit and miss. He'll go cold for 25 games. His production will be similar to Heinen. Yikes. That's not a selling point to me, Kyle. I hope we don't acquire any more Nashville figure skaters dressed as hockey players. I agree that Novak won't be here long. The Eriksson family, my buddies from Sweden. Philip Hollander, I know you had trouble identifying his position in the SHL this season. He played left wing, on one of the best lines here. Yeah, he was with Oliver Kapanen and Jonathan, is it Dahlin or Dahlin at right wing? I know that line was pretty spectacular. But I will tell you this, everybody, I've started watching some Hollander clips and started diving into some of the games I can get my hands on. He was moving so much better this year than my notes on him, my memory of him with the Penguins. He was zipping in Sweden, like just getting from A to B with some emphasis and intent, but getting there quickly. I never saw that with the Penguins. He was kind of floating and he didn't play quickly. And he looked like kind of a mediocre sort of skater. So, yeah, I am starting to put Hollander on my hopeful pile that he could really be a contributor next year. I'm not there yet, not ready to write it, but thank you, Erickson family. We need to keep Cookie for sure. The problem with keeping Noel Acciari is that he takes a spot from, say, Vasily Ponomarev, or, well, Tanner Howe won't be ready anytime soon. But if you want some of these young players to take that next step, some of the veterans have to necessarily go. Can an alpha robot play some defense? Is it a right-handed shot? We're going to get to like the McKenzie brothers. We're going to get to Strange Brew. We're just going to have two Oregon players playing their team. Yo, Rosie, eh? Let's go to Michael Parker. Who will be the next coach for the Penguins? Young coach with no or little NHL experience? Possible that Mitch Love would be the guy you're talking about, right? Young coach, little or no NHL. I mean, Mitch Love has 2 years assistant coaching experience in the NHL, 2 years junior head coach, 2-year AHL coach. Elaine Nasruddin has half a season as an NHL head coach. Otherwise, no other experience as a head coach. Not in Wilkes-Barre or anywhere else, but certainly his stock is rising the better the Dallas Stars play and the more he is seen as a driving force of, some of their schemes. Nasruddin's, I think, 48, 49. I'd like you to call that young, but I don't feel young at that age. So we'll see. I think don't discount an older coach as well who buys in to the Penguins and Dubas's mission. I believe there are some Badger Bob types out there. Not quite one with his hockey level genius, but certainly some of those guys who could come in, embrace the challenge, and embrace the players as well, and have the players respect. I thought Vellucci could have been one of those kind of guys, but I don't believe he is a candidate. Hacky Gee, whatever it is. When discussing the third line, Novak seems to be forgotten a lot because he played, 1.5 games? Yeah, assuming because of his injury. But isn't he a good bet for the third line center? Yes, you are absolutely correct. The question is he a good option for the third line center? Look at this. As we get towards 1 o'clock, the numbers are climbing. I think I have to go back to 1 o'clock next week. The numbers are going up, keep going up. Like and subscribe, by the way. Also, if you enjoy doing these, you can also put a nickel in the tip jar. That goes straight to our travel budget, which will be kind of insane next year. Alan is going to Ireland for the Steelers. I'm going to Sweden and all of that happy, fun stuff. All right, let's go to JR. Any word on current Pens asking to be traded? No, actually. JR, the one I assumed would ask to be traded was Sam Poulin. And I asked Poulin late in the season, before the playoffs. I didn't go anywhere near those sort of questions during their playoff run. But I believe it was March or so. I said, hey, this can be off the record. This can be on the record. How are you with a fresh start? Do you feel a little bit blocked here, with the Pittsburgh organization? How do you feel about your current situation? It's like, no, I've never given it a thought. I'm with this organization. I'm going to make the Penguins. So that would have been the guy I immediately circled, but I've heard neither hide nor hair of anybody wanting out. In fact, recall Dubas's press conference. in which he was kind of angry or worried that all the players wanted to come back. He thought that was actually a negative, that people should have wanted out. Let's go to Josh. This is probably out there, and forgive me. If it sounds stupid, but based on the relationship they have established over the years on the world stage, do I think Sid might plant a bug in Dubas's ear to look at bringing in Brad Marchand? Well, I don't think Sid would say no. I don't think the Penguins would say no at the right price. But think about this. Work it backwards, Josh. We just talked about the Penguins' top six a little while ago, which now includes Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen. Now let's assuming you haven't traded Rustin Raquel yet. All four top six winger spots are filled. So Marchand would come in here and not play with Crosby. 2, Marchand would come in to the Penguins and not be a cup contender at what, 37? Is he 37, 36, 37 years old? He wanted to go to Florida, in fact, to win a Stanley Cup. So I don't see that being a realistic option, but I also don't discount that the guys wouldn't mind making it happen. How's that? What is my sixth sense concerning the Rangers' first-round pick? Oh, I can tell you that easily. The Rangers will keep their 12th overall pick because they assume, and they have to assume, right, with Mike Sullivan, that they're going to be better next season. You have to assume that, right? In an interview, Kapanen gave Hollander a 99 in skating, and the reporter said, that's McDavid class. And Kapanen replied, no, McDavid is 100. that seems about right. Oh, and I guess there's also some other breaking news. John Shannon reporting that Adam Foote is the new head coach in Vancouver. So cross another one off the board. Tocchet gone. Adam Foote is gone. I always assumed Adam Foote would have gone to Colorado, but I guess Bednar is never leaving there. So is that all the questions? Yeah, look at that. I caught up on the questions. Woohoo! We have almost done the full hour. So this is your last call. I must attend to some business matters a little bit later. Yeah, I see some people texting me that the internet clickbaiters have now seized upon the rumors to say Rick Tocchet will be the next coach. Like, stop it. I wish there were a way we could put these people out of business. Honest to God. I gave the guy up in Quebec a pretty good threat because they were just cutting and pasting large portions of my content. Like honest to God, they were cutting and pasting the Dan's Daily, but taking out the good links. Like, back to the Hockey Now sites. And they were trying to change some words and get by. And they even left the phrase, I always put like in the first paragraph, elsewhere in Dan's Daily or elsewhere in the Daily. They weren't smart enough to take that out. So I just sent him, I'm like, here, I can see that you're copying our work. If I ever see this again, the next note won't be a cease and desist, but a lawsuit. Have a good day. And he, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know my writers were doing that. I'll have to talk to them. It's like, come on. This guy's just a clickbaiter. He just owns a bunch of websites, and he's probably profiting too, which makes me sick. Oh, if we already subbed to Hockey Now, how do we sub to live chats only? As long as you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, it's like following. It's like, it's basically following. On YouTube, it says subscribe to the channel rather than follow. Same sort of difference. Any chance David Quinn is the new coach? I would say 0. Quinn has Quinn has not distinguished himself in his 2 head coaching stints. Jonathan Bradford says, more money than you? How do you know? I do own the company there, Jonathan. If you're trying to brag or something, I do own a pretty nice company. Anywho, I should show you my watch too. Actually, I've got one of my funky limited edition watches on today. It's only a Seiko 5, so it wasn't terribly expensive, which is always nice. But that was actually, if you look at it closely, you Queen fans will recognize it. It was designed by Brian May. So they gave him full, what do you want to do? And he basically made his guitar into a watch face, and they bezeled it with gold, and they put the worst possible band on it. Worst. And so I wear it like once or twice a year because I just hate the band. Let's go to Josh. Oh, Josh is from Johnstown. I spent a year in the Flood City. Trying to remember what year was it you worked for the Chiefs? 06, 07, I think was my season. I only lasted 1 year. I was a fair play-by-play guy. I was miserable. I had to drive an hour and 15 minutes each way to get there. My home life fell apart completely. I did clash with the office staff. I was older than everybody else. I was 30, and there were, 20, 22-year-old guys running around having a ball, and that was great for them. I got there late and money and all. It was just a miserable sort of year. So I only lasted 1 year, and never had a chance to get back to it. I love doing play-by-play. Oh, and I love doing play-by-play. That if I could go to the AHL and just live comfortably for the rest of my career and do play-by-play, I probably would do it. What about Sam Bennett? Can't afford him. Don't need him. And go back to Kyle Dubas's comments, Paul. Dubas said they're not giving a long-term contract to a guy who's like 28 to 32 years old because they want him to be in his prime when they're ready to win Stanley Cups. So that's going to be a no on Sam Bennett. Miscellaneous. Can I show us Yoda? Sure. This is actually, I also have this baseball was the very first home run ball that my son hit. Let's see here. Yeah, Yoda. Is he still used to talk? Oh, the battery is dead. It was like a magic 8-ball. You would ask it, squeeze its hand, and answer you, I will. There, that's Yoda. Let me put Yoda back. You also notice some of my toy collection back there. Bunsen and Beaker over my shoulder, and Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mean Gene over that shoulder. Dan, to stay on theme, I am reprogramming a Terminator to go back in time and stop that clickbaiter from ripping you off. Thank you. I appreciate you. Who do I like for the Cup champion? Boy, whoever wins between Dallas and Edmonton, right? Edmonton is significantly better than I expected. I watched them the first couple of games against LA, and I thought they were going to lose in 5. I seriously thought they were dead in the water, and they were. LA chokes. Edmonton gets ahead of steam. Vegas is kind of lifeless. Vegas has all of the right pieces, but there's no fizz. They're just flat pop at this point, which surprises me. They're going to have to address that. You know what? You want to talk about a place for Brad Marchand next year? Vegas. That would be where he needs to go. Let's go to Logan. I'm from Saskatoon. Do I think the Pens draft Saskatoon-born Roger McQueen? Logan, I would put McQueen at the top of my list every day of the week. If he is still there at number 11, and he might be because of that back issue, which I understand was kind of like a broken bone sort of situation, and not herniated disc, or I don't know, but that's the chatter that I've seen. I McQueen's ceiling is so much higher than Brady Martin's that I don't know how you can pass up Roger McQueen if you're the Penguins at number 11. I don't know how you can do it. So yes, to thoroughly answer, yes. And there's the 1 hour mark. I appreciate you all. Like, subscribe, just, if you, as long as you follow the YouTube channel, you get notified of these live chats. We'll do it again next Wednesday. Although I can't promise I know where I'll be. I'm getting itchy. That bike is out there calling my name, and I haven't gone very far yet. I've had to dodge rain clouds, it seems like, every day. Yeah, Michael mentions Jackson Smith was around the 11 mark. Do I know anything about him? Again, good enough defenseman. I've seen some people say he's mistake prone, which I think the Penguins should avoid like the plague. If you're mistake prone now, it's not going to get any better as you get older. That's just my 2 cents. I am not a fan of taking either of the defensemen who project. Was it Murbata or like the Czech defenseman? I always forget his name. It's one of those triple consonant names. But he's 6'6". I don't think any of those defensemen who are available at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 have a high top pairing ceiling to them. Maybe Jackson Smith does, but he's still not going to be a top pairing defenseman, if that makes any sense to you. So I would stick with the guy who has the highest ceiling, period. No matter what position, the guy with the highest ceiling when I'm there at number 11, that's who I am taking. Because listen, within 2 years, the Penguins' top 6 is going to be sans Evgeny Malkin, most likely one of Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust. And so you're going to have spaces, even if you take a winger, right? If you think a winger has a much higher ceiling than Roger McQueen, then that's what you have to do. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to go meet with the Little Lebowski Urban Achievers. Have fun.